Okay, so we're continuing the interview with Yitzhak Kohavi, and today is September 19th, 2022. And I believe we're up to when you got to Israel last time.
That's right.
Right. So now you were together with your sister?
Yes.
Right. And so where did you go in the beginning?
Okay. We go to a place in Hebrew, they call it Ma'abara. Ma'abara was, there were a few Ma'abara in Israel where the newcomers to Israel were put in temporarily. This was mainly in tents, and some places small. How do you call? How would I say? Mainly, we were in tents. We were put in tents. There were hundreds of tents in a place called Ra'anana, which is now a city in Israel. And my sister and I were put in these tents, waiting to be allocated by Jewish organizations in Israel, allocated to certain places that they will decide where do we go.
Okay.
Any
So how long were
questions
you?
about it? And I shall tell you the story of the Ma'abara.
Right. So I mean, did they have like beds or cots in the tents, or you slept on the ground, or
No, we slept on beds.
on beds?
Beds like camp beds, you know, that folding beds.
Okay.
The
And,
folding beds, and these were places that hundreds and hundreds of people were there, maybe thousands in some of them, and the government or the Jewish organizations supplied the food, all the necessities. They supplied it to these places, but
did you?
everybody stayed there for a very short time. From there, they moved to locations that the government decided, or in my case, the youth organization, which we called Aliyat Noar, that they decided where do I go.
Okay. So did you want to try to stay together with your sister?
Okay, that was the first major problem of my life. My brother came to Israel a year before us, and he stayed in Cyprus. The British took him to Cyprus, but he arrived in Israel a year before our arrival. He left Hungary earlier, 2 years before us. And he joined the group of people like him. I want you to understand our age. My brother was in 48, 17 years old. My sister was 15, and I was 8. That's the concept or the situation where we were. My brother stayed in a place called Meshek HaPoalot. That's a place called in Petach Tikva, together with others. Their aim, people in the age of 17, was to set up a settlement in Israel somewhere, where the Sochnut, the joint, will decide where do we set up a settlement, a new settlement. Think about it, people of 17 years old, that's what they did at that time. Now, when we arrived to Israel, to Ra'anana, to this Ma'abara, as I told you, in the tents, my brother came to us by foot from Petach Tikva to Ra'anana. I believe it's about 30 kilometers or something like that. He came by foot and told us, I'm going to take Yafa with me to the place in Petach Tikva. And I said, what I'm going to do? He said, the government or the organization will take care of you. Of course, I was 8 years old. I started to cry. I remember it like today. I'll hold the leg of my sister. And I was crying and crying and crying. And I said, you cannot take her and leave me here alone. Then he said, that's what Yafa, my sister, should do. That's what she should do. She has nothing to do here, and people will take care of you. And practically that's what happened. So in the age of 8, I remained alone in the world. Nobody in the world was with me, nothing. And I stayed there for a few weeks alone. And my sister went to stay with my brother. And later on, very short, 2 years later, they set up a settlement in Israel. So that was my situation, my feeling, being alone, nobody with me anymore.
So
Any
did
question?
you find any other people from Budapest that you could stay with?
No, no one. There were people from Budapest, and I talked to people of my age, but it was a non-organized situation that you felt that you are alone in the world, and that's all. That's the situation. And from there, I was taken with the youth organization Aliyat Noar, and I was sent to an agricultural school, Mossad, and where people like me were there, and other people of my age, and it was called Ben Shemen. Ben Shemen is the place where I was sent. I was sent there. And it was not my decision or what I am going to do, not my brother's decision, not my sister's decision, but that was the organization in Israel. That was the youth organization in Israel. They decided where you will go. And I went to this place that called Ben Shemen. It was a school, agricultural school, and there were people like me and other people, other young people like me, until they even ages higher than me, 12 years old, 10 years old, people that were sent there by their family. If their father and mother were separated, or they wanted to send the kids to be in such a place, such a school.
Now,
So
when you say agricultural school, does that mean you're sitting in a classroom, or are you out on a field planting things, or dealing with animals? Or what is?
Okay, I was there from the age of 8 until 16. 8 years I was there. I was in this school. The day, or we studied from the morning until 1 o'clock. In the afternoon, we went to work in the fields with cows, with poultry, with all kind of animals, like in any agricultural school. When I was 8 or 9 years old, I worked in the fields and working at the afternoon. Working in the fields. Later on, I started to work with cows, breeding cows, milking cows, and that's the way I lived until I was 16.
Were they planting things? Were they planting grapefruits or oranges or?
No, we get their all our needs. We get their food, clothing, everything that you need, and we got education. Now, the importance of this period, 8 years, was that it was I got all my education and all my character, I will put it that way, in that place, in Ben Shemen. We lived together in a group of 30, 40 people in a school. We studied together. We played together. Any play that children play, like football, basketball, there was a pool there. We were swimming, and we got our basic education of art, music, and anything that you can think about that enriched us with all the whatever we needed. And I think that my growing up, loving the arts and music and playing and doing what I did, it's the what I got what I had in Ben Shemen.
So was it only boys there, or was it boys and
No,
girls?
the boys, girls, mixed, everything, everything. And
Right.
most of there were groups from Hungary, from any other country in Europe. Many were Israelis, as I told you, people that were sent there by their parents, that the parents wanted them to grow up in this school. If the school exists even today as an agricultural school. Very
Now,
famous one. Even I remember that Einstein visited there, and musicians and Danny Kaye and all these very important people visited the place, which was a sample of education in Israel.
where did you sleep? Did you have your own room, or did you sleep in a room with a lot of other people, or?
We slept with between 4 to 6 people in a room, and we had one dining room for the group, and dining room we ate their breakfast and lunch, and most of the time dinner too, except Friday and Saturday. Friday and Saturday, the whole village gathered together in a huge reception with eating together, listening to music, listening to stories. And but it was for the whole, a few hundred people, even 200-300 people, or young people like me, were on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
Friday evening and Saturday noon.
Did you have any possessions that you acquired? I mean, did you have something like a bicycle or a camera or a watch or
No.
nothing?
No. Watch I had, the one that I got for the bar mitzvah. Watch I had, but no bicycle and no camera. It was expensive things. I couldn't afford it. You cannot, you have to buy these things. I couldn't buy because I had nothing. I had no money and nothing.
Now, were you in touch with your brother and sister, or not really?
Yes, my brother and sister, as I told you, in 1950, they set up a settlement about 5 kilometers, 3-4 miles from Ben Shemen. It was a settlement that they were a group of Zionists that set up a settlement called Kfar Daniel village. And there were about 30 people that tried to live and develop their life there. I'm always thinking about mentioning again their age. They were 17, 18, 19 years old people. They tried to build something new, something different, and in a very dangerous situation. I used to walk from Ben Shemen to the village, to Kfar Daniel, to their place once a month, or Saturdays. I used to walk from one place to another and meet them, be with them a few hours, and come back by foot to Ben Shemen.
Right. I mean, were you afraid of the Arabs?
Yes, there were Arabs, and even I went sometimes. They went out from their village, tried to catch Arabs, and went out. I went out with them once or twice, trying to catch Arabs. There were many Arabs in the area. It's around 2 Arab cities, Lod and Ramle. There's the settlement, and we catched Arabs and we gave them to the police.
How did you catch them?
Oh, we saw them, and they, not me, but they had rifles, they have ammunition, and they catch the Arabs and took them to the police.
Right. So during this time, how would you say that you were emotionally? I mean, were you happy during this time? Were you very unhappy? You know,
No,
I mean,
I think that I was at the beginning. It was very difficult because of the language, and because of the strange people that I didn't know them. But later on, a few months later, I think I was I was happy there in Ben Shemen. I think so. It was a
Did,
very happy period, very nice period, and very happy.
did any of the children smoke cigarettes?
No, as far as I know, no.
Or
Later
anybody run
on,
away or?
okay, later on at the secondary school, we smoked cigarettes, but not here, not in Ben Shemen.
And did you play sheshbesh ever? Did you learn how to play sheshbesh?
I know what's sheshbesh, but we used to play chess, which we had good people in chess. And as I told you, football, basketball, and swimming. That was the main activities. But chess was very famous in at that time in this place. There were very good players even. One of them, a friend of mine, became a well-known international chess player.
What was his name?
Bernstein, Yaakov Bernstein.
Right. Okay. And so did you, when you were there, did you ever speak Hungarian at all or no?
No. I had no chance to speak Hungarian with even with the people that were there. We were ashamed of it. We had to speak Hebrew, to learn Hebrew. So from the eight, when I was 8, except later on when I grew up and I was 11 years old, 12 years old, my aunt came from Hungary. The aunt that stayed with us, she came to Israel. She met a nice person. They married, and they lived in Haifa, which is about 100 kilometers, 70 miles from Ben Shemen. And I used to go there in the holidays, like in Hanukkah, in Passover. And then I speak with her, with my aunt and her husband, Hungarian.
Yeah. So where you were, you always had electricity there?
Yes.
Yeah. And what did they use for a bathroom?
We had bathrooms, showers, not bathrooms. We had showers, we had water running, we had everything. It was well organized and nice village. It was even now, as I told you, it exists. It's a very famous village in Israel.
Yeah. So did they have like a truck or automobiles or
No, not for us.
no?
I used to go to visit my aunt by bus. I took a bus from Ben Shemen to Tel Aviv or to Elad or Lod or other place, and from there a bus to Haifa. From Haifa, another bus to go there to visit them.
So were there any famous Israelis that visited you? You know, like Moshe Dayan or anybody like that?
Shimon Peres, I believe you know who is Shimon Peres. He grew up in Ben Shemen too before me. He was educated in Ben Shemen, and he came to visit us a few times. He was then a politician. He was not a minister or something like that, but later on he was a famous one. Another famous was later on a president of Israel. We are not proud of him, Katzab. His name was Katzab. He was later on in a prison.
Now,
But he became a president of Israel.
were you talking
And
with
there were many famous people that grew up in Ben Shemen in Israel later on. Many.
So were you talking with the other kids about the war a lot or not really?
We were talking about the war. We were talking about everything. We were talking about politics. We were reading newspapers. We met every evening, and we had a session talking about what's happening in the world, what's happening in Israel. It was a very highly educated place.
No, but I was asking you, were you talking about the Holocaust when you were there?
About the Holocaust, very little. No,
had
we were
a
not
lot of these.
practically, I don't remember that we were talking about the Holocaust.
Oh, no. So when you were there, did you understand what happened, like in Auschwitz with gas chambers, and did you really understand what happened during the Holocaust, or you really
No,
still didn't know?
not really,
Not really.
not really, not at
Did
that age.
no?
And I think the instructors, the people that taught us in Ben Shemen, in the schools and other places, for some reason, they never raised the issue of the Holocaust. Maybe because of us as children, maybe they didn't want to. They didn't. Maybe they didn't want to talk about it because of us as young kids. I think so.
Okay. Um, and do you remember the Jewish holidays there?
Excuse me.
What do you remember anything interesting about the Jewish holidays? Celebrating Passover or
We celebrated all the Jewish holidays as we should. We celebrated Hanukkah, Passover, and Shavuot. I don't know how do you call Shavuot in English, but there is a holiday when you bring the new fruit, bikurim they call it. I don't know how you call it in English, but it was a very famous holiday in that place in Israel too for young people. We celebrated all the holidays very strictly as the religion asked for, all the holidays.
right?
And
So
we
you,
were,
so you
yes.
said they had cows. I mean, how many cows did they have? 3 or 20
No,
or
we have about 20 cows.
20?
And I milk them by hand. There were no machines, etc. I used to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, going to milk the cows, and then at 8 o'clock go to school, and then at afternoon go again, working a little bit with the cows, and then resting, etc.
Right. So did you ever have any money when you were there?
No, not at all.
No.
Not at no money at all. And we didn't get money, and I didn't have money. No, nothing. None. And I haven't got money even from my sister or my brother. The only money that I got is for when I traveled for the bus, things like that. But I never got money. Never.
Yeah. Now looking back, do you think that your brother made a good decision taking your sister, or do you think that was a bad decision?
No,
Do you think
I
she would have
think
been better off staying with you,
for
or?
her, for them, it was the right decision. It was the right decision. She couldn't come with me to Ben Shemen, and she was too grown. She was 15 years old. Ben Shemen was not for her, and I think it was the right decision. Looking back at that period, it was the right decision for them to do that. They met my sister met her husband, and they married later on, and they developed as they should. But I don't think there was any other possibility, not for us.
Did any kids run away? Did any kid just leave when you were there?
No,
No.
no one ran away. No one. I didn't run away. I didn't want to run away. It was the place to live.
I mean, were a lot of these kids, were they obviously very damaged from the war, just the way they were? Because I mean, a lot of these kids had lost their entire family. So were they evidently? Could you see that in their behavior?
There were people there that didn't have anybody in the world.
Right.
None at all. No relatives, no brothers, no sisters. My group where I stayed, all were people that had very few people, very few relatives, and all came from Europe, the from the Shoah, all past the Shoah, and we lived together, but we never, as I told you, we never talked about it. And later on, at the age of 16, everybody found his own way somehow in Israel.
Did you have goats?
No,
No.
no,
So,
we didn't.
so did they produce products like with the milk, or did they try to, make cheese or anything?
No, no.
No.
No, the milk, we sold the milk to outside organization, and some of it we drink in the place itself.
Right. I mean, did you ever get candy when you were there?
Yeah, we got candy, we got chocolates in the group. But part of the food was candy, chocolate. We got it, and especially in Friday evening dinner, which was a special dinner. We got sweets, candies, cakes. It was a well organized and nice place, and financed by the donations, the government assistance, things like that.
I mean, what if you wanted to be by yourself? Could you be by yourself there, or were you always around other people?
No, I always was with other people. I never went alone myself. We were always in groups, in how do you call it, Sofim organizations,
Scouts.
youth organizations, scouts, and there were other organizations, 3 organizations, and we were getting, we had meetings and talking together, traveling to other places, once every few months we went to visit famous places in Israel. We traveled, we saw the country, we went to Masada, we went to Jerusalem, but it was all organized. It was all organized by the place itself.
Where did the clothes that you're wearing, where did the clothes come from?
Excuse me?
You were wearing clothes like shirts and pants, shoes. Where did all that come from?
We got them from them. We got from in the village. We got all our clothes, all the shoes, everything. We got everything.
Did those come from America?
Whatever we needed, we got it there.
Did those come from America, or were they made in Israel? The clothes.
I don't know from where they were, but
Were they new?
Manufactured that. I don't know where. There were Jewish organizations from other places in the world, probably in America too, that helped such villages. But mainly it came from the government, the Israeli government, not from other from donations and other things.
Okay. Now,
again, the place, the village has a budget. The budget from it was from the Israeli government and from donations. And with that budget, the management of the village bought the food, bought everything, the clothing, everything that we needed.
okay, so was this program, was it over when you were about 16?
Yeah, it was over because the schools, they taught people only on the 6th grade of the second 2 years in the college. And the college in Israel is 4 years, and they taught only 2 years. And after that, all the children had to find somehow, with the help of the village management, a place where will they go and continue their living.
So were you being trained to work on a kibbutz?
Excuse
Is
me?
that what was the purpose of being there? What were you being trained to do? The agricultural school, was this to work on a kibbutz somewhere in Israel, or What was the purpose?
No, the idea was to teach us, or they gave us the basic education. And
Okay,
from there, everybody went, everybody had a consultant or some few consultants that they sat down, discussed what are you want to do, what do you want to do, and they went there. Some of them went to professional schools, some of them went to the pre-army schools, and everybody had to find his way according to his own intention, inclinations, etc.
so what did you do?
There were, as I told you, there were consultant or the management of the group, and there were very famous in Israel. One of them was called Jacobson, that took care of many people there personally, young people like me. And he called me, and at the age of 16, he called me and he told me, I think you are a smart guy. I think you should continue and study in the secondary school, finish it and get your certifications. And I want to arrange you to do that. I want you to arrange you. I can get money from Aliyat Noor, where those people that take care of young people. He was a very famous educator in Israel.
What was his name?
Jacobson.
Right.
Yosef Jacobson, that was his name. And he told me, I can take care of your education fees. You have to find a way to live somewhere. And he talked to the manager or the owner of the very famous school in Israel called Tichon Hadash, new secondary school. It was one of the best schools in Israel at that time. And he said, here you have a nice guy. He's a smart one. I'm sending him to you. Go ahead and accept him, and Aliyat Noor will pay for his tuition, for his studies. So that was I was 16 years old, and I went, my sister used to live at that time. She was married already. She used to live in a place called Givatayim. And I went to her, I went to them, and I asked them if I can be with them. They had a very small apartment in Givatayim, very small 2-bedroom apartment. And I asked them if I can stay with them. And they said, of course you can stay with us. I needed to sleep there and to eat there. And my brother lived in in Givatayim, in the same place at that time. And what I did practically, I went and slept in my sister's home and ate in my brother's home. So I went from one place to another and studied in Tel Aviv for 2 years and completed my education, my college education. So that was my life. I bought a bicycle. I don't know how. I don't remember how. A very old bicycle, and used to ride from Givatayim to Tel Aviv, about 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers. I used to ride to the school from home, riding on the bicycle, rain, no rain, day, no rain. And I studied there for 2 years.
Did you have to go into the army?
Oh, when I finished my studies, I had to enroll to the army. I got it. Everybody in Israel had to enroll to the army. And I was enrolled to the army. And then when I was enrolled to the army, I left my sister home. I went to the army, and I lived in the army for 3 years in the camp there. I lived in the camps in the army. I had a place to sleep, eat eat, and I stayed in the army.
Well, what
But
kind of training?
the army is a story. And I tell you the story.
Go ahead.
When I joined the army, I joined the engineering groups. It was not my decision. It was the decision of the army. You do not decide what to do in the army. You are going to the army wherever the army send you. And I joined the engineering group. At the second month in the engineering group, during the training, I broke my leg very badly. In the
How
training,
did you break it? How did you break it?
I jumped from a high, in the training running, I jumped from a high place to a lower place, about 3 meters. I had to jump. It's one part of the training.
Right.
And probably instead of falling on my 2 legs, I fall on my right leg. And I broke my leg very badly. And I couldn't continue my services with the engineering group because it was you needed a very high, being physically apt to do what they are doing, fighting and running and etc. And they transferred me to the headquarters of the Israeli army, which was in Tel Aviv. I was transferred there. There is a camp in Hakiria in Tel Aviv. I could sleep there and I could live there. And I was moved to the headquarters of the Israeli army in a unit that was called the financial advisor to the chief of staff. That was the unit. There were about 50 people in the unit. And
Hey, Dad, I thought that when you broke your leg, there was like a period where nobody believed you that it's broken.
yeah, that's right. No, they didn't believe me. They didn't find out that I broke my leg. So they sent me back to the unit. But I couldn't run, I couldn't walk. And a few weeks later, they sent me back to the hospital. The doctor looked at the Röntgen and the pictures and said, who was the stupid doctor that they look at that? You broke your leg. And now that you broke your leg, we cannot put it in the geves. How do you call it, Ronnie? In
Cast.
Cast, yeah.
we couldn't put it in, we cannot put it in the cast, and you have to leave it as it is.
Oh,
But you are going we have to move you in the army from the fighting units to the another unit. So when I arrived, that's the important story, is that when I arrived to that unit, the person that was responsible for allocating the soldiers to their various tasks, he told me, okay, I'm going now to send you to work as a clerk in one unit that dealt with the logistics of the group, logistics of the place, of the camp. And 2 days later, I came back to this person and I told him, and that's one of the lessons that I learned in my life. I told him, look, that's not for me. You are an officer, you can do whatever you want, but I'm not going to stay in that place. I want to contribute to the army, and in that place, there is nothing to do for me. I don't like it and I don't want to be there. He looked at me, I don't know why. He said, okay, I accept what you say. You are a nice fellow. I am sending you to another unit. That was the unit was called the financial advisor to the chief of staff. And the important in that mission was that when you stay in such a place as the financial advisor to the chief of staff, you see the whole army. You see everything as a whole. You see the big picture. You know where the money goes, all the money where it goes. And I was I was there. I was called this. They put me in to be a statistician, learning statistics, and making the statistic of all the expenses of the army. And that was the big change of my life and the direction of my life from then on.
Right.
Clear, or do you want to ask questions?
And I mean, were you still injured with your leg? And were you able to walk, or did it heal
I was
properly?
able to walk. I was able to walk. I was walking with special shoes. And after a few months, I felt much better.
Do you still have problems today?
Even now, the leg was not put together in the right way. But even now, I have some pain. You know, it was 6 years ago. Even now, I have pain in my leg, and I didn't want to operate it. They wanted to operate it. I didn't want to, and I didn't operate it, and I leave it. Is okay. I stopped playing football. That was the
Right.
only thing that. But I am walking, and I am swimming. I can do nearly everything with my leg.
Right. So any other
Football in
stories?
Israel is soccer in the US.
Right. Yeah.
I was a good soccer player, and I stayed there, the army, for 3 years. But as it was in the headquarters of the army in Tel Aviv, they finished the day, or they stopped until 5 o'clock. And what I did with my time from 5 o'clock on, I started to study. There was an evening university in Tel Aviv, which was a branch of the Jerusalem University, which is a very famous university in Israel. And I started to study economics and political sciences. And I studied there while I was in the army. While I was living in the barracks in the army, I was studying economics and political sciences, and I got some help from the Ministry of Defense. Okay, when I finished, after 3 years, when I finished the army, I remained to work as a civilian in the Ministry of Defense in the same place. The unit that I worked with were soldiers and civilians, and I remained there as a civilian, and I got help to continue my studies in the university from the Ministry of Defense. That's the way I covered my studies.
Okay.
Clear or not?
Yeah, I understand.
A little bit complicated, I know.
So would you say that you were very happy in Israel? Or did you ever have any thoughts of going someplace else at the time, or?
No, I would never go because of my brother and my sister. I would never live alone in Israel, never. My brother and sister were there. They built their life there. And I was, I will tell you later on, I was very happy with the jobs, with the work that I did later on.
Your brother, he got married too?
Yes, my brother, my brother, the settlement that they set up, they couldn't, after a year or something like that, they couldn't continue with it. They didn't succeed from the economical point of view. They didn't develop the economic facilities. It was a failure of the group, of maybe the management from the outside of the place, and they couldn't continue there. And my brother joined the army. He joined the army, and in the army he met his wife, future wife.
Okay. So, well, most of your friends, were they survivors from the war, or did you have friends who were, Israelis, who are,
When I joined the army, I've had friends in the army, and I continue my relationships with people or students from Ben Shemen, from the place that I grew up, from Ben Shemen. Even now, about 20 people for 60 years later on, we continue to meet once a year or twice a year. We had a WhatsApp group. I meet them. We keep in touch. But that's part of my life. The other one was the secondary school and the army.
so what did it, yeah, go ahead.
I had friends and have still friends from the army, people that were with me in the army, and people that were with me in the college. Very good people. I kept very good relationship with a few of them. Some of them passed away already, but what I am proud of really is the relationship with that group from Ben Shemen. We had a teacher who is now 104 years old. 104 years old.
Wow.
His name is Noach. He's still alive, and we celebrate him every year, his birthday. He's now 104 years old. He was my teacher in Ben Shemen.
Right.
That's really interesting and a nice thing.
Well, what are the names of some of your friends from Ben Shemen?
Oh, I have many. One of them is a famous lawyer in Israel. His name is Israeli, Yaakov Israeli. He's a famous lawyer. He is now also in pension like me. He is also in my age, 83 years old. And I had Benny and Yoki and Dani and Rachel, gay ladies, Yona. I have many friends that, as I told you, we are still in touch, and Zvika, and we meet. Some of them were later on very famous in Israel. Like one of them was a judge, a very famous judge in Jerusalem, etc.
So did any of these people, did all of them stay in Israel, or did any of them go to the United States or other places?
Some of them from Ben Shemen, I know about 2 that left Israel to the United States. We are not in touch with them because I know any special reason, but I know that they live in the United States. I don't know even if they live now, but I know that they moved to the United States. I know. But what's really happening, and that's a different story, that most of the families that I know have one kid at least somewhere in the world. Like Ronnie is my son, lives in the United States, and most of my friends have one kid. Some live in Australia, some live in the UK, some live in Italy. Most of the people in Israel has someone abroad. Not in Israel, but as if the people that I lived with.
So did your brother or sister or you, did anyone want to go back and visit Budapest or go back to Europe?
Well, for visiting, we visited Budapest many times, not once. Me and my sister, my brother together, we took as we visited the places where our parents lived, our home was, our place where we hide. We were there 2 months ago, but that's with my family. I wanted to show my kids, my grandchildren, the place that I live. Yeah, we lived in Israel.
Right. So then what kind of work did you do?
Okay. I want to continue. When I finished the army, as I told you, I remained in the Ministry of Defense. Okay. I finished my studies and I worked there as an economist. And I met Tikva in the university, my wife, and we married in 1963. Okay?
How did you meet her?
We studied together economics, and in the school, we studied and we met, became friends, and after a year, 1 year, we married.
Where was she
Okay.
from originally?
She's from Iraq, a family from Iraq, her father from Iraq, and that was the situation. But, and I am coming to the main story of what happened. As I had nothing from the material side, I had nothing. I had no money. I had no home. I have only my work, which was a government salary. It was not not
Right.
much. And my wife used to work too at that time. And I decided that my way to get something with my possibilities, that I can build myself from the material side, I have to go abroad and work abroad for the Israeli government. That was a decision I took. Now, as I work in one of the more central units at the Ministry of Defense, I went to the general manager of the Minister of Defense. His name was Moshe Kashti. He was the general manager, very famous one. And I told him, look, I'm 23 years old. I finished my studies, and I want you to send me to one of the units abroad, to live abroad for a few years.
Right.
And he looked at me, and for some reason, I don't know why, he said, okay, I have a job for you. Would you like to go to Burma, now Myanmar? Myanmar in the Far East. I didn't know even what Burma is. I didn't know what Myanmar is. I said, what do you want me to do there? He told me, look, there is a military attaché in the Far East. The military attaché covers 4 countries. He covers Burma or Myanmar, Thailand, Philippines, and Japan. And he has to travel all the time. I want you to go there and assist him when he travels. You stay there in the office in Myanmar. I went home. I didn't know what Myanmar is. I know nothing about this. I went home. I talked to my wife. I told her, look, that's an opportunity for us to make some money, to live abroad, earn money, good money. The people there get good money. You will work. You could work in the Israeli embassy there. And we can make some money and have some money to build ourselves from the material side of things, from the economic side of things. And she said, of course, she agreed. And it was in the summer of 1963. And in December, we were in Burma, in Myanmar. We flew to Myanmar. We stopped in Iran, Persia at that time. We had relatives there. My wife had relatives there. And we landed one day in Myanmar, Burma. I don't know if you have been to Myanmar, Burma. I don't know if you like these places, but we stayed in the Far East 1 year in Myanmar. Later on, the office moved to Bangkok, and we lived there 3 years. Ronnie was born there, and we lived there in the Far East for 4 years. And I became, from that point of view, I became a lover of the Far East. I started to love the Far East. I started to be, as we say, a man of the world. I met there people from all around the world, military attachés, ambassadors, people from whatever you can think about. and we could buy an apartment in Israel from our income. My wife Tikva worked at the Israeli embassy. We both of us worked. We made some money, and we stayed there for 4 years in the office of the Israeli embassy, in 1 year in Myanmar, in Burma, and 3 years in Bangkok. That
Right.
was we stayed there until 1967. That
But
was our
what
life.
kind of business was your wife's family in? You know, what did her father do? Or what kind of business?
My wife's father was a controller of a bank in Israel. He was a financier of the discount bank in Israel. Chashab, controller, I think it's right, Ronnie? Chashab. Controller.
So, yeah.
He was responsible for the money of managing the money of the bank.
Okay.
And by the way, we were, before going to the Far East, we bought a very small apartment in Bat Yam, a very small apartment, and a part of the money to buy the apartment was given by my wife's father, about 1/3 of the value of the money. The rest we took as a loan, which we returned from the Far East, from our salary in the Far East.
Okay. And did you have any children there?
Ronnie was born in Bangkok, in Thailand.
So was he born in a hospital there?
Excuse me?
He was born in a hospital in
Yeah,
Bangkok?
Ronnie was born in a very, very good. In Bangkok was a very good place, very nice place, many foreigners, and really very good doctors. It was a nice place to live, and at that time the war in Vietnam started. So the soldiers from Vietnam came to holidays to Bangkok, and the Bangkok was covered with American soldiers. I met there some Jewish soldiers. We became friends, and we were very close with the foreign groups in Thailand, in Burma, less than with the local people. With the local people, we had very little to do. Some of them we needed for kind of information gathering, etc., but not really.
Now, when you got married, did you keep kosher?
No. My wife came from a kosher home, but she accepted my way of living, and we didn't keep kosher, but we kept the Jewish holidays. We kept all the holidays. My wife also kept Yom Kippur, and then other places. She was fasting. Even now she fasts. She came from a more religious side, but not very orthodox. But she was, and I am not.
So did you have any more children?
Yes, I have 2 more children.
Mazel tov.
2 of them are daughters. Ronnie is 55 years old now, right, Ronnie? You are 55?
No, I'm 56.
56, sorry. And we have I'm a daughter, she's 55, and a daughter, she was born later on, and I reached this point, she was born in 68.
Right.
She was born in the United States. She's an American.
So what happened? Did you go back to Israel, or you went?
Yeah, when I finished, I went for a certain period. It was supposed to be 3 years, but the military, important story. The military attaché his name was Gior, Geyo. He was a general. And we became very good friends. the family of the military attaché and ourselves, we became very close, and we kept this for years, many years to come. It has an impact on my life later on, which I shall reach shortly. At 67, when the War of 67 happened or started or came, we went back to Israel, 1967. And we came to Israel. My daughter was born in Israel. She was born in 67, in September 67.
Let me show a couple of photos, maybe. Here is a famous one.
Oh, okay.
This
That's
is my dad.
That's me, and that's General Rabin visiting the Far East before retirement. Before he retired, that's the military attaché, and that's another general from Israel. And this is the chief of staff of the Thai army, these two people. And this guy also worked with me in the Israeli embassy. But this is General Rabin is a famous person, of course. We had a full album with him. We traveled with him in Thailand.
Right.
When he visited Thailand, he traveled with him. And this is the world famous lady, beauty queen from Thailand at that time. World beauty queen. She won the World Beauty Queen, and that's Tikwa, my wife, and that's me. You don't recognize me, but that's me.
Okay. I have a question. You said your wife was from Iraq. Now, my neighbors growing up, they were from Iraq. They were Jews from Iraq. And I always remember Reuben, the man, he would walk around with these beads in his hands that he would hold. I don't know what they were, through thinking or relaxing. Do you remember anything about beads that they would hold in their hands?
I saw many Iraqi people doing that. That's I think they were too nervous. I think that's playing a game with your hand, like people playing with balls or small balls in the hand or things like that. It has no meaning, to my opinion, as far
Okay.
as I know.
Yeah, I was just wondering. Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, that's
These are the three siblings.
my brother in the army, my sister, and myself. It was my wedding day. That was the picture from my wedding day.
Yeah, you look very.
My brother was at that time a captain. He came, as you can see, to my wedding dressed in uniform. I was really proud of him. He was a very famous later on. He became famous. He was one of the in the unit that in 67 captured Jerusalem. He was the assistant to General Motagur in Jerusalem, in the fighting, in the war in Jerusalem.
Right. Yeah, you're a handsome group there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We came back to Israel, as I told you, in 67. And the war was over at that time, and Israel had conquered new territories, Judah and Samaria and Gaza. And what they did, they set up a unit to take care of these areas, to take care from the economic side, social side, education, whatever you can think about. You have to manage. At that time, they were around 1 million people. Now there are 3 or something like that. But from the administrative point of view, Israel controlled these areas. So what they did, they set up a unit in the Ministry of Defense to take care of the management of these areas. And Moshe Kashti, when I came back from Asia, I met him. He sent me to the Far East. I went to say hello to him. And he told me, look, I want you, there is this new unit. I want you to join that unit and be responsible for parts of the management of the conquered, we call it not conquered, administrative areas. And I was very happy to do that. It was a very interesting thing to do. And I was very happy with it. That, instead of going back to the financial part or economic part of the Ministry of Defense, I moved to do something that was really important and interesting. I was part of the management group in the areas. At that time, I was responsible for the social activities in the administrative areas, social areas with education, health arrangements, and transportation and things like that. And I was a part of the really high-ranking official group in Israel that was responsible for the management of these areas.
Right.
And I worked there for 4 years in these areas.
When you were in Israel at that time, did you view yourself as a Holocaust survivor?
I was there.
Did you think of it? You weren't in concentration camps. So did you consider yourself a Holocaust survivor?
Yeah, there was in Israel a management of the Holocaust survivors, and they registered all the people that were in the Holocaust, and they allocated some money to these people, and a very small amount of money. Even now, they continue pay a monthly fee of now is about really nothing. It's not for that, but this created some unit of connection between Holocaust survivors, and the more important thing was that we dealt with it with my brother, my sister, and my aunt that also came, as I told you, from Israel. And we were discussing the Holocaust issue, talking about it, about relatives of my father, of my mother, trying to get in touch with them. It was always something that we dealt with it all the time, every time, all the time. We never left this issue untouched, and never. We all the time dealt with the Holocaust, all the time. And
Right.
we had other people in the family that came and passed the Holocaust, like the one that I told you about that had to the death march that did in Hungary. We were in touch with him all the time, and another cousin. We were in touch, all the people that passed the Holocaust, and we met nearly every month. Every month we met and talked about what's going on with the families and with the relatives, other relatives. I knew that we had a relative in Chicago and relatives in Hungary. Still, we have a relative in Hungary that we met. We are in touch with them. We tried to be in touch with them, in some of them. And there is a lady in Hungary that built a tree in what we call the heritage group, or Jenny, that 300 relatives that I don't know them even, but she built them and they are my relatives.
Oh, a family tree?
I don't know them. I don't know them.
Yeah.
I have no touch with them, but in the Jenny, there is a list of relatives that goes back to 1800 or something like that, and the people that exist or existed, let's put it that way.
Right.
But the issue of the Holocaust is the thing that connects us.
So how long did you stay in Israel for?
Excuse me?
How much longer did you always stay in Israel, or did you move to the States
No,
at some point?
when I came back, I worked in this unit at the Ministry of Defense for 4 years.
Yeah,
Then after 4 years, I decided that I want to do something else. It was enough. I worked 4 years in the same things, and I decided that I want to do something else. And I went again to the Kashti was still, after 4 years, was the general director of the Ministry of Defense. I went to him, I said, look, I want to do something else. Then he told me, look, we are setting up a new organization in
right.
the Ministry of Defense that will deal with the export of armaments from Israel to other countries all around the world. And I want you to join the setup of this group. The head of the group his name was Shapira. He was a deputy managing director of the Ministry of Defense. And go ahead, be his deputy. I said to him, I'd be very glad to do that. And I joined that unit. And we set up a unit that exists now even, that managing, first of all, regulating the export. Israel is one of the biggest, among the 10 biggest exporter of armaments all around the world. It's
Really?
electronics, army, missiles, whatever you want. I don't want to go into details, but Israel is one of the 10 largest exporter of ammunition and armaments around the world, from all countries in the Far East, in South America, in Europe, in Germany, whatever. And we were, the unit was regulating the export. It means approving the exports. If somebody wants to export something to one place, you have to approve it, because it can hurt the name of the country. They can do with the things that you don't want them to do it, and it can reveal secrets of the army of the armaments in Israel. So hey, you have to approve it and regulate it. That's one thing. And the other thing that the group did, the group was responsible for the export of army surplus to other countries. Let's say we don't need any more old tanks or old aircraft or old armaments. We sell it to another country. And that's what we did. I did it for 4 years. And at that time, I continuous study. I studied business administration, and I got my MBA degree, and cum laude, and
Right.
I finished my study, and I decided that's enough for me with the Ministry of Defense. And I wanted to do something else. And I was offered to be the commercial attaché in Australia. And I went to the new general manager of the Ministry of Defense. His name was Ironi. I knew him very well because I met him many times dealing with the export of armaments from Israel. The nicest thing that I ever did, by the way. And I told him, look, I have an offer to go to Australia to be the commercial attaché there. And I want to go there. Thank you very much, etc. Then they told me, I don't want you to leave the Ministry of Defense. And what I suggest, I offer you is to set up yourself a new unit in the United States. To set up a new group in the United States that will deal with the buyback from the American companies. What buyback means, when you buy from General Dynamics aircrafts, or from, at that time, from Chrysler's, you buy the how do you call it, the M14, or you buy another thing, you have a huge contract, and in the contract you sign in a buyback clause that they say they have to buy something in Israel. General Dynamics or McDonnell Douglas or Grumman or Chrysler or any other company in the United States, they will have to have an obligation to buy back, they call it, in Israel, whatever they want. Has nothing to do with the army. They can buy tables, they can buy food, they can buy chocolate, whatever the company wants, just to increase the export for Israel.
Had you ever been to the United States?
Excuse me?
Had you ever traveled to the United States before that?
No, not that. I traveled once. Look, when I used to, when I worked with the export units, Sibat we call it, the export group, I traveled all around the world. I traveled to the Far East, I traveled to Europe, I traveled to South America. Traveling to South America, I traveled through New York. So I flight once to the to South America, to New York. And I was in New York, but he offered me the job of setting up a unit in the Israeli mission in New York, what they call a buyback unit, and stay and live in the United States for, again, a certain period. And I accepted his offer. And in 1976, we flew, Ronnie, Orit, my daughter, at that time, and myself with my wife, we flew to New York.
Did you speak English?
Did
you speak English at the time? Did you know how to?
Very badly.
Right.
And very poor, very simple English. And we lived in the Queens for 4 years. And I dealt with what I dealt there with the buyback of the American companies from Israel. And I traveled all around the United States, seeing all the companies, all the groups, visiting them and trying to convince them to buy in Israel and connect them with the Israeli companies to export to them, to export to the American companies. When we had some nice achievements with Chrysler, General Dynamics, and the companies like that.
Do you remember where you lived in Queens? Do you still remember?
I lived in the Queens.
Do you remember where?
Kew Gardens.
Kew Gardens, okay.
Yeah. We lived in Kew Gardens, the tallest building in Kew Gardens.
Oh.
That's the building. Okay, yeah, the building called Court Plaza, right, Ronnie? Court Plaza. We were living in the 16th floor. Nice apartment, seeing Manhattan from the far. Seeing
How much was the rent?
From one side and the Kennedy Airport from the other side.
How much was the rent?
Excuse me?
How much did they charge you to live there? What was the rent? Do you remember?
The rent was, I think, $1,500 at that time.
Right.
But it was paid by the government. I didn't pay it.
Okay. So your children, they had to go to school here, right?
Yeah,
Did they speak English?
They went to a Jewish school. Solomon Schechter was the name of the school.
Yep.
And they lived there, and Ronnie can tell you more about his living there that I can tell you.
Right.
But we were there. We had a new daughter there. In the 2 years after arrival, she was born there. A nice girl.
So were you happy that you moved, that you were in the United States, or would you rather stay in Israel?
No, we were very happy there. The children were happy. I think so. The children were very happy there. They gained the English. I gained connections in the United States. I gained a lot of experience working with the American companies, and it was fun. It was fun living there, but I knew that I'm not going to live there. That I'm going. I will go back to Israel. I never thought there. Okay, there were many people that worked with me, not few, but many people that worked with the Israeli mission there. That's after completing their term of duty, they stayed and remained in the United States, trying to develop their own business one way or another. I knew all the time that I am going back, I will go back to Israel because of my family, because of my brother, because of my sister. And the connection, the family connection with us is very, very, very important, very high. And really in 1980, 42 years ago, we went back to Israel.
So all your children went back with you too?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
All the three children came back and studied in Israel, all of them. Yeah, all the three of them, yes.
Okay. So now, when your children were young, did you tell them what happened to you during the war?
I think so.
Okay.
But I don't think that I went into too many details, but they knew the story of the family. They knew the story of the family. And they knew that they do not have grandparents, grandmother, grandfather. They knew that they don't have. They had to know. They lived, yeah.
So did the war change your belief in Hashem? Do you think that the Holocaust had any, impact on your belief in God?
I never believed in God.
Okay.
I never believed, not before and not after. I never believed in God. I'm very realistic, very
So-
realistic, and seeing the things as from the science point of view, and I never did, never.
So were you an angry person after the war? Because of the Holocaust? I mean, were you angry? Your parents got killed and, you had other relatives?
I do not think that angry is the right word. I told you in our last meeting that the Holocaust is with me, was with me, and will with me as long as I live. It's a part of me. I'm everything that I do, I read, whatever I do, I'm thinking about the Holocaust. It's every day, my everyday life, and people, even if the people don't see it in me, for me, getting up in the morning is thinking about it, and I'm writing about it, I'm reading about it, and I'm lecturing about it, talking to people about it. All my friends, I'm telling them the stories about it. That's my life. That's my life. The Holocaust is part of my life.
Who do you think was worse, the Hungarians or the Germans?
Look, for me, the Hungarians, for sure, for me. But the Germans took my mother to the concentration camp, to Bergen-Belsen, and they killed, as far as I know, and I'm not sure about it, that they caught my father and they killed my father. That's what we know. But I'm not sure about it. I'm sure about my mother. I'm not sure about my father. But the Hungarians, not for me personally, but for the Jews in Budapest, they were worse than the Germans. They were worse than the Germans.
Right. Now, would you say that you have any injuries from the Holocaust today?
What do you mean the injury?
Well, psychological injuries or physical injuries or?
Physical for sure not. Psychological, I don't know. It has a kind of maybe impact on me. People say yes, you had if you were 5 years old when it happened, it has an impact on you. It has. That's
Right.
what they say. People that psychologists that I talk to, and from that the organization of the Holocaust organizations, or they send you to talk with psychologists, and they talk with and I read the report. They say it must be, if you were 5 years old, it has an impact on you. How? I don't know. I
Right.
don't know. I cannot even say. I don't know.
So Yitzhak, why did you survive the Holocaust? What was the main reason that you survived?
I told you, I survived. It was a luck. It was a luck of the way the war managed to be. The way that I told you last time, a few weeks more, then we wouldn't survive. We wouldn't survive. A few weeks more. The
Right.
fact that the Germans didn't stop the Russians, this saved us. The Germans went to the Ardennes, tried to stop the invasion of the Americans, to the Dunkirk invasion. They went to the Ardennes, put all their army there, all their force there. They didn't stop the Russians, and the Russians conquered earlier Hungary. That's the reason why I'm here sitting with you and talking to you.
Right.
I believe that it was a question of weeks, not even months, a question of weeks, that the Hungarians would have killed us. The Hungarians, not anybody else, they would have killed us. I'm
So-
sure about it.
Right. Do you feel guilty that you survived and so many other people didn't? Do you ever feel guilty?
No,
No.
I don't think that it's a question of guilt. I don't think. I
Okay.
never felt guilty about it. I felt very sorry about it. I felt very sorry. I'm still feeling sorry about it. But I never felt guilty. Look, I was 5 years old. I could do nothing. Even if I wanted to do, I could do nothing. So it
So-
is not that I can justify many things. But I cannot justify my living. It's somebody else's responsibility.
Now, have most of your friends been Holocaust survivors, or have they been either Americans or just, Israelis or?
My friends, even now, some of them, as I told you, from Ben Shemen, are Holocaust survivors, and I meet them. But most of my friends are not Holocaust survivors. They people that were grown in Israel or came to Israel from other places. I met people that we were very good friends in Thailand for years. Later on, we were Americans that we were good friends with them. I met when I lived in the United States. I met people from in the company, in the firms that I worked with, that we are still in touch. We are still connected. When I'm in the state, we meet them sometimes. And the marketing manager of Chrysler, for instance, we met in one of the visits, and we are in touch in the mails, exchanging mails, talking by phone, even writing. I'm in touch with many people in the not many, but some people all around the world. Don't forget my age. Many people do not live anymore.
Right, sure. So were you ever part of like a survivors club, like a group?
Excuse me?
Like a survivors club where you would have do activities with other survivors? No? Okay.
No, not at all. Not at all. Except, as I told you, once a year, there is a day dedicated to the Holocaust. I go and lecture to people and tell my story. That's a kind of organized meetings in Israel but it is not, it is a different organization completely that organizes these meetings, and you talk to young people mainly and tell them your story and tell them your opinion, and all they ask at the end of the meeting, can it happen again? That's anywhere that I go and tell my story and tell the story of the Holocaust, all they ask at the end of the meeting, can it happen again? That's the last point. Let's put it that way.
Do you think that people who didn't go through the Holocaust, like American Jews, do you think that they understand what you went through during the war, or not really?
Tough question. Tough question. I think that the Jews, many of the Jews know what happens. Non-Jews less know about it or don't know at all. I think there are many researchers in the States even that 1/3, I think, or a quarter of the people in the United States, they don't know about the Holocaust. I think that they know about the Holocaust. I do not think that many of them are interested now after so many years in the Holocaust.
So how many times have you been interviewed before about the Holocaust?
Once I was interviewed for the Yad Vashem as an official interview. I have it videoed, printed. I have this Holocaust, as I told you. It's from the whole. My sister was interviewed, etc. And that's all. You are the second real one about it, asking questions, talking about it to people many times, not once, but as an interview so deep and asking so many questions, that's the second one.
So was the other interview that you did, was that in Hebrew?
The other one was in Hebrew, yes. That's the first one. That's the first interview in English.
How many hours was that interview?
I think 2.5 or 3 hours. I have it videoed. I have, as I told you.
Did your children listen to that interview? Did Ronnie ever hear that, or?
No.
Oh, no. Why not?
I don't know. I have the interviews of all my relatives, and I sent Ronnie an interview of one of my cousins. But the interview in depth, they know the story. Let's put it that way. Ronnie and my kids, they know the story. They heard it many times during visit to Hungary and in meetings, in talking. They all in Israel. My two kids join the meetings that I have with other people. They listen to me. They know the story as I tell you.
What about your brother? Was your brother ever interviewed?
My brother was also interviewed in Yad Vashem. But my brother passed away in April this year. And he was also lecturing as me in the schools and in other places. He telling his story in many occasions, and he took also his family to Hungary. He told them his story. We told the story as much as we can. What we tell in this interview, this is our story. Not in detail as much as I tell you, or you ask questions, answering questions. That's the situation.
So do you ever have bad dreams at night from the war?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes, yes.
Okay. And
sometimes, yes, mainly after visiting Hungary or things like that, or after lecturing, after telling the story. Yeah, I have sometimes bad dreams, yes.
And how did you start talking in schools? You said you would go to schools and talk to students?
It's teachers and that know that I passed the Holocaust. They ask me to go there. That's all.
So do the students ever write you letters?
Not an official organization or not something like that. It's by meeting people. They know who am I, and then that's all. No, nothing more.
Do the students ever write you letters?
Yes.
Right. What do you do with all the letters that you got?
Excuse me?
You said, I asked you, do the students ever write you notes? Do they ever, after you meet with them in the school, or no?
No, they talk to me. No, not after that, but they ask questions and talk to me on the spot. So whenever I finish my talk, people stay 1 hour, half an hour, whatever, and they ask me questions. And but nothing in writing, nothing in the writing, no notes.
So you mentioned before, did you need any psychological help because of the war?
No,
No?
no.
Okay. And have you read a lot of books or seen movies about the Holocaust?
Every movie that I can, I have many books here behind me about the Holocaust. And I read about the war, about the Germans. I have here on the wall many books about the war, the World War II, about the Holocaust, everything. I have the Eichmann trial book. I have many books here. Here I have many books. I read all the books, and I all the time, Yeah.
Any of them
Any new book, any new movie, anything about the Holocaust, I'm going to see, I'm going to read, anything.
So did any of them stand out as particularly interesting? Any of the books or movies?
Anything interesting?
Yeah,
There is here a set of books of Scheirer, if you heard of him, just a minute. That book is in Hebrew. That book is in Hebrew, and it's about the rise and fall of the Third Reich, the history of the German Nazis. It was written by William Scheirer.
right.
Scheirer was the architect of Hitler, and the book is a very, very good and very interesting book. Scheirer wrote, and there is what else? Okay, I cannot find them now. But there are many books that about Hungary, about the Jews in Hungary. I have here all the stories, everything, and I read everything.
So, Yitzhak, how do you feel when you see Jewish people driving German cars? How do you feel when you see Jews driving Mercedes?
Look, at the beginning, it was tough. It was difficult for me. But later on, I realized that that's the way of life. For a very long time, I didn't want to visit Germany. I didn't want to go there. And I worked in places. I was the vice president of a large department store group in Israel, the largest in Israel. I had to travel to Germany. I had to travel to many places. At the beginning, I didn't want to go there. Later, I realized that it doesn't help anybody if I don't go.
Right.
And it can hurt me. So I went to Germany. I met German people. And the interesting thing that most of the German that I met, I told them my story. I told them who am I, most of them. And they were from large companies, educated people, general managers of companies. They all knew. I told each of them who am I and what happened to me. I told everybody.
I mean, did
That
any of
was-
them tell you that the father or grandfather was a Nazi?
No, none.
So do you
They
think they were
wouldn't tell
lying?
me.
You think they were lying?
They wouldn't. I don't know. They wouldn't tell me. They
Right.
are. They except listening to my story and telling me that they are very, very sorry. That was the end of it. That was.
Right.
But you are asking. Look, at 53, Israel decided to get help from Germany. You know, the shilumim, the payments from Germany. It was a decision of Ben Gurion. The government of Israel decided that they will get money, huge money from Germany. Some people say that it helped Israel, it built Israel. And I am part of Israel.
Right. So if you went in a store and something were made in Germany, would you buy it or no?
Yeah, I would buy it. If I like it, I would buy it.
Okay. And do you get any money from Germany?
Not from Germany. I got it from Israel to the Israeli government. The Germans gave money to the Israeli government for the survivors of the Holocaust, and that's I get money from them.
How do you feel? How do you feel about getting that money?
It's a small money, and at the beginning I felt bad about it. Later on, you get used to it. It's not. I feel nothing about it really. Doesn't matter that way or another way. My cousin that I told you about, Pishta, that was when the march, that march, he was dealing with this organization personally, helping people to get money from them. He told me, why not? What's wrong with it that you get the money? And if you don't get it and it makes you any happier, any better, so I get it.
Okay. Now, have you ever been to a Holocaust museum, you know, like Yad Vashem or?
No, Yad Vashem, I went a few times. I went there for about 3 times. My friends that came from the United States, I used to take them to Yad Vashem, to visit with them Yad Vashem. And I went there 3 times at least.
How does it feel to be in a Holocaust museum?
Terrible, especially when you go to the children's side, seeing what they did for 1 million children, that they killed 1 million children. It's a terrible feeling. It hurts you personally bad.
Right. So do you use the internet? You use the computer?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You use the right. And so your wife, was she a good cook?
My wife cooks, of course.
So does she make mostly Iraqi foods or what kind of or Israeli foods?
Well, she makes Israeli food and I make the Hungarian food.
Oh.
I cook Hungarian food.
What's your favorite?
I make Hungarian food at home once a week at least.
What's your favorite thing to cook?
Look, my sister, my aunt, all of them cooked Hungarian food. They cooked Hungarian food for
Yeah, so
years.
what's something that you like to cook?
I make poppy seed cake and goulash, and I make noodles with poppy seed, what they call potatoes with eggs, which is also a krakot krumpli, they call it. That's a Hungarian dish. There are many dishes that we make. We make salad, Hungarian salad, Hungarian cucumbers. I make a lot of Hungarian food. Yeah.
So what do you put in a Hungarian salad? What's in a Hungarian salad?
I don't know how to call it in
Well, say it in
cucumber
Hebrew.
soup.
You could say it in Hebrew.
Kruv,
Well,
kruv. How do you call it? Kruv. I don't know. Cucumbers, onions. In all their salad they put sugar, for instance. That's the mixture of all kind of vegetables.
Okay. Now, have you ever experienced anti-Semitism yourself since the war? You know, like maybe
No.
when you were in America, or no?
Oh, yeah. The strange, very strangely, I experienced it in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, with Indian store in Hong Kong, I went in the store and they asked for, I don't remember what I wanted even to buy. And they asked for some money and we started to discuss, so it's expensive, etc. And they started to say in very bad anti-Semitic, are you a Jew? Why are you discussing money? Why are you asking for it was really bad. I left the stop at the shop immediately. Immediately I left the store. But it was in Hong Kong once. I don't know. In the United States, I never encountered anti-Semitism, and of course in Israel, no way. And in traveling all around the world, I'm more. They see me more Israeli than a Jew. Wherever I went, let's say, to other countries, in other places, they see me as an Israeli. And very important to say that in the Far East or in South America, they don't know even what a Jew is. They don't know. When I visited there, the question of being a Jew never arose. You are an Israeli. When you meet somebody from Thailand or from Cambodia or from the Philippines or these places, they don't know what a Jew is. They don't know what a Jew is. They see a Jew like a Christian, like a part of Christianity. So the question of anti-Semitism in the Far East and South America, where I spent or visited many times, never arose. So in Europe, I didn't encounter anti-Semitism. I visited France many times, Italy, never.
So have you ever been the victim of a burglary? Did anyone ever break into your house, or?
No.
No? Okay.
No,
And
never.
so what are some of the famous people that you've met? You know, like famous politicians or famous actors? You know, you've met some famous people. Who are some of them?
I met Shimon Peres. He was as I told you, he was the Minister of Defense in Israel, and he was the Deputy Minister of Defense. And in fact, I talked to him before going to the Far East. I met him, discussed him that I'm going to the Far East. And during my work as dealing with export of armaments in Israel, I met in all the countries that I visited. I met the Minister of Defense in all the countries, in the Philippines, in Thailand, in Burma, in all the places that I visited. I met, even in Japan, I met very high-ranking people. In Chile, I met the President Pinochet. I met many famous people.
Okay.
But that was in my capacity as dealing with export of armaments from Israel to other countries. That was the reason why I met them. That was the reason. Because most of them, when you deal with export from government to government, you deal with people, the highest ranking people. Highest ranking people.
So would you say that those transactions were all on the up and up? They were all very honest? Were all the countries, or did some countries where people had to be paid off for?
No, I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, fair enough.
That's
Okay.
not
Yeah,
that's
right.
not,
Okay.
not in the sphere of our discussion.
I am. Okay, I understand. So are there any things that remind you of the Holocaust? You know, like a piece of bread, a train, a policeman, a siren? Are there any things that when you see it, it brings you back to the war?
You know, when I went to Chile and I went to see Pinochet, and there were soldiers, of course, guarding him. Now, all the soldiers wear a German helmet. So that reminded me immediately the German army, immediately.
Right.
And it made me, you know, I was sitting like I don't know, it was bad, but no, except that I remember well, because it's really had an impact on the spot. I don't think that anything. A Mercedes may remind me of the German ministers, even Hitler. When I see a Mercedes, even now, it reminds me Germany immediately.
Right.
You know what? I wouldn't buy a German car. I wouldn't. I wouldn't buy a Mercedes. I wouldn't. I never, and I can afford it. I wouldn't buy a Mercedes because of the symbol that it has with the German generals, German ministers, because it has what it has with Germany. A Mercedes is a symbol, to my opinion. But if I buy a washing machine made in Germany, yeah, I can buy. If it's a good washing machine or whatever, I can buy it. Yes, I didn't buy it, but I can buy it.
So do you have issues with food? Do you buy too much food, or do you never throw away food? Or
look, I think from my earlier life, as in the Holocaust, I'm trying to be or thinking about spending money. I'm spending money doing. I'm thinking about it more than other people probably.
okay.
The fact that we had no food, we had no clothing, etc., etc. I'm thinking about things a little bit more than other people, maybe.
And when your children were young, were you overprotective of them? Were you always waiting for them to come back home when they would leave the house? Do you think you were more worried about them than, another parent?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay. And what kind of activities do you do? Do you play cards? Do you walk? What kind of things do you do?
I used to play tennis. I used to swim a lot. I used to play chess. I used to go to sport clubs. I'm still walking every day. I have a exercise bicycle at home. I'm walking every day about 1 hour, walking around. I'm going with friends to see sunsets, even now, even yesterday, maybe day before yesterday. That's about. I'm reading a lot of books, a lot. I'm on the internet. looking for everything that I can find about the Holocaust. I am interested in the universe at large. How is the universe develops? I am reading books about it, how life started, what will happen, what's the end of the world, things like that. I'm trying to be broad-minded as possible.
Right now, so how many grandchildren do you have?
8.
Do you have any? You don't have any great grandchildren, do you?
Excuse me?
You don't have any great grandchildren.
No, I don't
Oh.
have.
So, what are the names of your grandchildren?
The name of my grandchildren is Oren, Itai, and Noga in the United States. Oren, Itai, and Noga. They live in the United States.
Right.
I have Shira and Maya, the twins of my middle daughter, Orit. And I have Yali, Hila, and Ori from the third child, for the young child.
Right.
Yali is a boy. He's going to be 13 in November. And Hila is 11, and Ori is 6 years old.
Right. Now,
These
that
are the 8, these are my 8 treasures.
right. So what's that picture behind below the clock and back of you? Is that a special picture or no?
Excuse me?
Below in back of you, there's a clock on the wall. There's a picture below that. What is that picture of?
Which one?
Right below the clock. That's on the wall.
Below the clock is a nice picture.
Is that?
This picture, can you see it?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, from
Look.
far away, I thought it might have been something from.
Okay, it's a pictures that call celebration. And I liked it very much because it's a very happy picture.
Okay.
It's a nice looking at and a happy picture, I would call it.
I was just curious, I saw that, I thought maybe, okay. So Yitzhak, you did a very good job. It's not easy to talk about this. And the reason that you were talking about this is we're gonna hope that people are gonna listen to what you said. And we're gonna hope that the Holocaust, that it never happens again.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope to. And when people ask me if it can happen, I say, yes, it can happen again. That's probably my last line of thinking, because if people could be as they were during the war, other people can be too. And when you go now to think about the Ukrainian war, or war in nearly any other place, what happened in Syria, or happening in other places, I do believe that the Holocaust, maybe not with Jews, but other people can happen again. A thing like the Holocaust. I think so.
Did you find it difficult to do this interview? Was it very difficult for you, or it was okay?
No, not really, because I did it in the past and I talk about it and I read about it. We just came back from Hungary and I told my children and grandchildren the story of my family. And I made a nice album about our visit, which says to remember, to travel, to eat, and to live a lot, to spend good time. So that's the name of the book. But it starts with to remember. And the album that I did, it opens with the visit at the cemetery where my father and my grandfather had their sign.
Right. Okay. Okay. So I guess we're done.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much.
much.
Talking to you. I hope you were interested in the things that I told you. If you need anything, you can write me a mail or ask again what an interview for to continue talking about something, whatever you want.
Right.
Nice talking to you.
Hey, you too. So Ronnie, how could I send this to the museum?